What are we gonna do today? Can you guess? I'm gonna give you a hint. Lots of bugs and nests and crows and trees. Let's get started. So what I started with is I had several window frames and I really wanted to keep the colors that were already on them. So I just washed the window, the top of the window and the glass to try to get it as smooth as I could. And then I sanded the wood, and later I'll wax it, but I just sanded it because I really wanted to keep the look of what it had, but I didn't want a lot of peeling pieces coming off. This is an aged paper, so it's a little bit thicker. It's not super thick, and this is what I'm gonna decoupage into this frame. So depending on the type of paper you're using, you may use a different medium for decoupage. When I'm doing thinner decoupage papers, I usually use something a little thinner, like a liquid patina. This one, I'm just gonna use a regular thicker Modge Podge because this is a little bit thicker paper. It will give me a few more wrinkles and bubbles, but you'll see how we're gonna take care of that. So the first thing I'm gonna do is line this up, and I'm gonna make just a little imprint here. I am gonna start by cutting this off. This is kind of where you can see I indented it on my frame. I have this fun bench that I like to sand on, but I don't worry that the edges get a little more distressed. I'm laying it picture side down, and this is a fairly nice straight edge. You could just cut it with scissors. You could use a sandpaper and cut it. You could use water and rip it. This is what I found is works faster, and I like this look better for large pieces. I'm just using my palm sander. I'm gonna line it back up on my glass, do a crease on this side, cut that, and a crease on the other side, and do the same thing. Okay, so now you can see my top and my bottom line in nicely. If they didn't, I would do another little sand roll. Top and bottom first, then my sides. And I line up my photo to see where I want to take my edges off. And I always do one side at a time, line it back in, and then do the next side. I'm gonna bring it back down, sand it, bring it back up. Now I am going to bend in my last edge and sand that one off. So the one thing I do want to suggest is if you're going to use a hand sander, you need to hold your paper on your straight edge very carefully, or a few little rips like this. I don't mind this, but you just need to hold it real tightly because it takes it off pretty quick. Okay, I feel pretty good about that. Okay, so now we are going to put our Modge Podge in. And normally when I do a big piece, I would do a little at a time, but I found with this thick Modge Podge, and it was gonna bubble up, it was just as easy for me to do it all at once. So I am just using a generic matte Modge Podge. Pull him out, and I am putting a thicker coat on here. So the thicker you get, it gives you a little more dry time, but you may get a few more wrinkles. But I do put it on very quickly. I'm not worried about the edges because this does dry clear. So I'm going to start with the top edge, line it up in my two sides, bring it down the center, bring it out, and there are going to be a few wrinkles in here. And you're going to see there are really a lot of wrinkles in this. But we're going to get most of them out. I'm using just a plastic bag. Now you want to be really careful and be mindful that you do have a piece of glass behind here, so you don't want to press too hard. Carefully press down as much as you can. I'm just gonna wipe off some of the excess off of the inside of my frame, and then we are going to iron this down. Okay, so I'm using a piece of parchment paper, and I'm gonna lay it on here, and you wanna be mindful again, this is glass, and you don't want it to get too hot. I mean, I have my iron on hot, but you don't wanna leave your iron on here for 10 minutes. It'll crack your glass. You can see how they're flattening out even more. There's the bottom half. I could probably do a little more ironing, but it's flattened out, and the top is very bubbly. I'll come back to that if I need to. I just don't want my glass to get so hot in one spot that it cracks. Okay, I'm gonna let this cool for a sec. Okay, and you could even go further and get them further down. I kind of like this. I'm gonna wax it now. So I'm gonna use a clear wax to seal this. And you can use any clear wax you would like. Anything you find from the hardware store, a painting clear wax, anything you can find. You're gonna see it's going to darken it up in here. It kind of soaks into the paper. Okay, so after I do the paper, I am gonna just go around my frame with clear wax, shine it up a little. If you did want to use a different sealer, the only thing you have to be mindful of is anything that you use that's a wet sealer, it may make your paper bubble up again. So the wetter your paper gets, it's like it reactivates it. So I think for this, I found that this clear wax really did work the best for me. But experiment and try what you like. Now, if you wanted to, you could even add a little dark wax after you've used your clear wax on here. But I'll show you, see how you can get a little darker finish around the edges if you wanted to. But since you've put clear wax down, if you don't like it, you can just rub that right out. I'll just let this wax dry and buff it up. So I hope you thought this was easy. I think the longest part was doing the ironing. But otherwise, I thought this was a really fun way to use up some old frames and some fun posters or papers that you have. Hope you give it a try. I'd love to see some photos, but have fun.